March 2012, Helmand Province, Afghanistan. A patrol unit from the 2nd Battalion was conducting a routine sweep through an abandoned village near the Pakistani border. The area had been cleared 3 times before. Nothing but empty mud houses and dust. But Sergeant Marcus Green noticed something the others missed. At the edge of the village, half buried under decades of sand and debris, there was a concrete structure. Not Afghan construction. Too precise, too solid. The edges were sharp, industrial, Soviet-era concrete. The team approached carefully. What they found made no sense. A metal door, reinforced steel, rusted but intact. And across the surface, stamped in faded Cyrillic letters. Zaprexino, opasnost, forbidden, danger. Green radioed command. We've got something here. Soviet installation. Requesting permission to investigate. The response came 30 minutes later. Document and report. Do not enter. Repeat. Do not enter. But by then, they'd already seen the lock had been broken. Recently, the scratches on the metal were fresh. Someone had been inside. Recently. And the door was slightly open. Green made a decision. He stepped forward, placed his hand on the cold metal, and pushed. The door swung inward with a low groan. Darkness beyond. A smell hit them immediately. Not decay. Something chemical. Sharp. Metallic. "Sir," one of the privates whispered. "Should we really?" Green was already inside. That was the last radio transmission from Sergeant Marcus Green's unit for 6 hours. 2 weeks earlier, Green's unit had been operating from Forward Operating Base Delaram. Life had settled into a rhythm. Patrol at dawn. Check the perimeter. Watch the hills. Report. Sleep. Repeat. Green was a 12-year veteran. 3 tours. He'd seen combat in Fallujah before transferring to Afghanistan. He had a wife in Colorado, 2 kids. He wrote letters every Sunday. In 4 months, he'd be home. The unit was small. 8 men. They'd been together for 7 months. They knew each other's habits. Private Daniels always complained about the food. Corporal Hayes never stopped talking about his hometown in Texas. Specialist Ruiz played guitar badly, but enthusiastically. The village they were patrolling had been abandoned for decades. Soviet forces had used the region as a staging area during their occupation in the 1980s. When they left, the locals never returned. Too many bad memories. Too many things buried in the ground. Intel suggested minimal insurgent activity in the sector. The real concern was IEDs. The Taliban had been planting them along the road leading north. Green's orders were simple. Patrol, observe, report anything unusual. The morning of March 14th started like any other. Temperature already climbing toward 90 degrees by 0800 hours. The team moved through the village methodically. Hayes took point. Ruiz covered rear. Daniels worked the metal detector, sweeping for buried explosives. They'd searched this village before. Twice. Standard procedure. Clear every structure. Check every corner. Mark it. Move on. But this time, something was different. A sandstorm had passed through 2 days prior. The landscape had shifted. And where there had been nothing but packed earth and stones, now there was an edge. A corner. Concrete protruding from the sand. Green called the unit to halt. They formed a perimeter while he investigated. That's when he found the door. Green knelt beside the structure. He brushed away sand with his gloved hand. The concrete continued downward. This wasn't a bunker. It was an entrance to something underground. "Daniels, run the detector over this," Green ordered. Daniels swept the area. The detector remained silent. No buried explosives. No metal fragments from old ordnance. "Clean, Sergeant." Hayes leaned closer, studying the Cyrillic text. Russian writing. Looks old. Soviet, maybe. "Can you read it?" Green asked. "Forbidden. Danger." Hayes traced the letters with his finger. Standard Soviet warning label. They put these on ammunition depots, chemical storage, radiation sites. That got everyone's attention. "Radiation?" Ruiz stepped back instinctively. "Could be anything," Hayes said. "They use those warnings for everything classified." Green examined the door more carefully. The lock was industrial, heavy duty, but it had been forced open. Recently, the metal around the bolt was scratched. Fresh gouges, no rust. "Someone's been here," he said quietly. That changed everything. If insurgents had discovered a Soviet weapons cache, command needed to know immediately. If there were chemical weapons, biological materials, anything the Taliban could weaponize, Green made the call to command. The response was clear: document and wait for specialized teams. But while they waited, Green circled the structure, and he noticed something else. Footprints, leading away from the door, heading east, toward the mountains. Recent footprints, 2, maybe 3 people, wearing boots, not local footwear. And then he heard it, a sound from inside the structure, faint, mechanical, like ventilation, like something still running. After 30 years, Green pushed the door wider. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. Stairs, descending steeply, metal steps, Soviet construction. The walls were reinforced concrete, smooth and precisely formed. The chemical smell intensified, not unpleasant, just present, like ozone before a storm. Command said, "Wait, sir," Daniels reminded him. Green nodded. "I'm just looking. Stay here. Keep watch." He descended alone. 20 steps, 30. The temperature dropped noticeably, cool air rising from below. That meant ventilation, active ventilation. At the bottom, a corridor, LED lights, dim but functioning. That stopped Green cold. LED lights, not Soviet-era bulbs, modern LEDs. Someone had upgraded the electrical system. The corridor extended in both directions, left and right, identical. The walls were lined with pipes, color-coded, red, blue, yellow. No labels, no markings except occasional Cyrillic numbers. Green chose left. He moved slowly, weapon raised. The corridor opened into a larger chamber, and what he saw made no sense. Computer equipment, modern servers, humming quietly, screens displaying data streams, not Russian interface, not English either. Something else. Characters he didn't recognize. In the center of the room, a table, papers scattered across it, handwritten notes, maps, and photographs. Recent photographs, high-resolution prints. Green picked one up. It showed this exact village, from above, satellite imagery, dated 2 weeks ago. He heard movement behind him. Green spun, raising his weapon, but there was nothing, just shadows. The corridor behind him was empty. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and when they stabilized, the corridor looked different, longer. The pipes on the walls had changed position. No, that was impossible. Green backed toward the stairs. His radio crackled with static. He tried to respond, but got only white noise. Another sound. Footsteps. Heavy, metallic, coming from the right corridor, the one he hadn't explored. Green moved quickly toward the stairs, but when he reached them, they were wrong. The steps were the same, but the door at the top wasn't where it should be. It was on the left wall, perpendicular to its original position. Green ran up anyway. He reached the door, pushed it open. Daylight blinded him temporarily. When his vision cleared, he was outside. But his team wasn't there. The village was empty. The Humvees were gone. He spun around, searching for any sign of his unit. Nothing. He checked his watch. 14:30 hours. He'd been inside for 20 minutes, maybe 30. His radio crackled again. This time a voice came through, clear but wrong, speaking Russian, calm, measured. "Welcome, Sergeant Green. The door recognizes you now. You can't leave." None of them could. Green ran. He didn't think, just ran toward where the vehicles should have been. Behind him, the door closed slowly. The Cyrillic letters seemed darker, more present. He never reached the fob. 6 months later, November 2012. Lieutenant Sarah Chen arrived at Bagram Airfield with a specific assignment: investigate the disappearance of Sergeant Green's unit. The official report listed them as combat losses, insurgent ambush, bodies not recovered, standard tragedy in an endless war. But Chen had seen the classified files, the real ones, the ones that didn't make sense. Green's unit had vanished, completely. 8 soldiers, 2 vehicles, all equipment, gone. The last transmission was Green's request to investigate a structure, then silence. A recovery team had reached the village 4 hours after the missed check-in. They found nothing. No bodies, no blood, no signs of combat, no structure, just an empty village and undisturbed sand. But Chen had found something else in the archives, a Soviet document from 1987, partially translated. It referenced a research station 23 in Helmand province. Purpose, classified. Status, abandoned after Incident Zvezda, 23 personnel lost. The coordinates matched Green's last known position. Chen requisitioned a helicopter and a security team. She wanted to see the site herself. When they landed, The village looked exactly as described, abandoned, lifeless, nothing unusual. Chen walked to the coordinates. She brought ground-penetrating radar. If there was a structure even buried, the radar would find it. She activated the equipment. The screen showed nothing. Solid earth. No cavities. No concrete. But Chen noticed something. A patch of ground where the sand was darker, compressed, recently disturbed. She knelt and brushed the surface, felt something hard beneath. Metal. Cold. Smooth. She dug faster. Her team joined her. Within minutes, they'd exposed it. The door, same Cyrillic warning. "Ma'am," one of the soldiers said nervously. "The radar showed nothing here." Chen stared at the door, then at the radar screen, still showing solid earth. She touched the metal. It felt active, like a low vibration, like something alive. The lock was intact this time. No damage, no scratches. Chen tried the handle anyway. It didn't budge. She stepped back. "Document everything. I want photographs, measurements, samples." The door opened, not from her pulling, just opened, smoothly, as if welcoming her. The team froze. Chen looked into the darkness beyond. The same stairs, the same chemical smell. "Ma'am, we should call this in," someone said. Chen agreed. She reached for her radio. It wasn't there. None of their radios were there. They'd had them 30 seconds ago. 5 radios. All gone. Chen looked at her team. Their expressions mirrored her confusion. "Everyone back to the helicopter, now!" They ran. But when they reached the landing zone, the helicopter was gone. The pilot was gone. The ground showed no sign that anything had ever landed there. Chen checked her watch. They'd been on site for 10 minutes. Her watch showed 300 hours. It had been noon when they arrived. One of the soldiers pointed toward the mountains. "Lieutenant, look, in the distance, lights, moving, descending from the peaks. Not aircraft, not vehicles, just lights, dozens of them, coming closer." Chen made a decision. "Into the structure, now." They ran back to the door. It was still open, still waiting. They descended into the darkness. Behind them, the lights reached the village. And then, silence. Complete silence. March 2019. 7 years after Green, investigative journalist David Kowalski published an article titled "The Vanishing Patrols of Helmand Province." He'd found a pattern. Over 16 years, 11 U.S. military units had disappeared in the same region. Different years, different circumstances, but always the same outcome. No bodies, no evidence, no explanation. Kowalski had obtained coordinates. He'd interviewed surviving family members. He'd filed FOIA requests until the military stopped responding. And he'd found Soviet records, declassified Russian archives from the 1980s. Research Station 23 had been real, built in 1979. Purpose, study of temporal anomalies. The Soviets had detected something in the region, a naturally occurring phenomenon, a place where time behaved differently. They'd built the station to study it, to potentially weaponize it. 23 scientists entered the station on April 3, 1987. On April 5th, the station sent a distress signal. When a recovery team arrived, they found the structure empty. No personnel, no equipment, nothing but functioning systems and lights that shouldn't have power. The Soviets sealed it, marked it forbidden, left it. Kowalski booked a flight to Kabul. He had contacts, fixers who could get him to Helmand Province. He needed to see the site, needed proof for his story. 2 weeks later, a villager found Kowalski's camera in the desert, 30 miles from the coordinates, undamaged, memory card intact. The camera contained 247 photographs. Most showed the structure, the door, the Cyrillic warning. But the final photograph showed something else. A corridor, modern, clean, lit by LEDs, and in the center of the frame, standing perfectly still, facing the camera, Sergeant Marcus Green, in full combat gear, looking exactly as he had in 2012, not aged, not changed. Behind him, Lieutenant Chen, and behind her, others. Soviet uniforms, US uniforms, different eras, different decades, all standing perfectly still, all looking at the camera. The photograph's metadata showed it was taken at 00 hours, January 1st, 1970, the default date for corrupted digital files, or the date when time stopped meaning anything. The military classified Kowalski's article. His website went offline. His editor received a visit from federal agents. But the story had already spread. Too many families asking questions. Too many disappearances fitting the pattern. In 2021, satellite imagery of Helmand Province showed something unexpected. The region around the coordinates had changed. Vegetation where there should be desert. Water sources that appeared overnight. Environmental scientists couldn't explain it. The changes weren't natural, weren't gradual. The landscape had simply shifted. Local villagers began reporting strange occurrences. Time moving differently. Watches stopping. Memories of events that others didn't remember. A research team from MIT attempted to study the phenomenon remotely using drones. All 12 drones vanished within a 2-kilometer radius of the coordinates. Not crashed, not destroyed, simply gone from radar. The Afghan government declared the area forbidden. The US military established a no-fly zone. Official explanation: unexploded ordnance, chemical contamination from Soviet occupation. But internal documents told a different story. Military analysts had detected something. An energy signature, constant, growing, radiating from the exact coordinates of Research Station 23. In 2023, a geological survey detected something deeper. Using advanced seismic imaging, they discovered a structure extending nearly 2 kilometers underground, far larger than the original Soviet installation. And it was growing. The structure was expanding, slowly, adding chambers, creating new corridors, all without any human construction. Sensor data showed temperatures inside the structure fluctuating impossibly. One chamber registering 400 degrees, the adjacent chamber at 50. Simultaneously, no one has entered the site since Kowalski. The military won't authorize it. The region is monitored by satellite 24/7, but sometimes the satellites capture something unusual. Figures moving around the entrance, human-shaped, but the thermal signatures are wrong. Too cold, or too hot, or simply absent. In 2024, a former intelligence analyst leaked a document, a communication intercept from 1986, Soviet military discussing Research Station 23. The translation was partial, but one phrase was clear: the door doesn't lead down, it leads across, to every version of this place that ever existed. And everyone who enters is still there, somewhere, somewhen. Today, the coordinates remain classified, the region unmapped on civilian GPS. The Afghan government doesn't acknowledge its existence, but if you search hard enough, you can find the families, the ones still waiting, still hoping. Marcus Green's daughter is 19 now. She doesn't remember her father. She only knows the stories and the letters that stopped coming. Lieutenant Chen's mother still lives in California. She filed lawsuits, demanded answers, got nowhere. The military's official position: combat losses. No further information available. David Kowalski's camera sits in an evidence locker in Virginia. The photograph of Green and Chen has been analyzed by every intelligence agency. No signs of manipulation, no digital artifacts, just an impossible image of people who shouldn't be there. Some researchers believe Research Station 23 is still active, still operating, that whatever the Soviets discovered, it didn't need humans to continue. It simply continues. Others think it's a trap, a place that collects people from different times, different realities, bringing them together in a space that exists outside normal causality. The last known attempt to investigate was in 2025. A private military contractor assembled a team, high-tech equipment, experienced personnel. They approached the coordinates. Their final transmission was brief. We can see the door, it's open, and there are people inside. They're waving. They look happy. The team never returned. Satellite imagery from that day shows something curious. The moment the team disappeared, the structure's energy signature spiked for exactly 23 seconds, then returned to baseline. 23, the number of Soviet scientists who entered in 1987. The number keeps appearing, in the pattern, in the data, in the years between incidents. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe it's a countdown. And somewhere in the desert of Helmand Province, beneath sand and time, a metal door remains, marked with faded Cyrillic letters: forbidden, danger, still open, still waiting.